Okay, Natasha, you can't be everywhere all at once, but you can create a brand that can be everywhere all at once.
Natasha, thank you for joining me here today on the Go at Manav. For those that do not know
Thank
you, could you
you.
please tell them a bit more about yourself?
Of course. My name is Natasha Moore, and I'm the CEO and founder of Natasha Moor Cosmetics. Um, I started my career as a makeup artist, and I was traveling internationally, working with brides primarily from around the world, VIP, high net worth individuals for really extravagant weddings. And I did TV and film prior to that, but I found my true passion in working with brides because I realized that they were the most vulnerable and they needed the most support. So then I was traveling around the world working with brides and realized that there was a gap in the space for beauty. And so I launched a cosmetic brand that catered not just to my clientele, but immediately, initially to my clientele. And then I expanded the line further as we launched into retailers like Sephora, Nysa and Nika, Macy's, and Amazon.
Amazing stuff. I'm so excited to learn more about you throughout this podcast journey. But I'd first like to go back in time just to learn more about who you were before you became the person that you are today. So could you please tell us a bit more about what were you doing at age 21?
Age 21, what was I doing? Age 21, I actually was in London for university as well. And I was at London College of Fashion, graduated and left. Well, not age 21, but I left at that period to come to Hong Kong. And I was finding my way. And so I studied fashion PR. And I was so passionate about photography as well. So I would work part time in different areas. I was like styling for Giorgio Armani and Harrods. And then I was working on, and then I moved to Hong Kong at that period. So 21 was like that period where we're like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to figure out? And it was all that stress. Um,
Yeah.
and in the unknown of what am I going to be after this university program, right? And I immediately moved back to Hong Kong, despite getting some job opportunities in London, actually. I moved to Hong Kong to be back with my family and my boyfriend at the time. It was incredible because I ended up working with fashion TV and I started TV correspondence. And that's where I was.
So was this plan to move back to Hong Kong? Was it just to pursue a career in fashion originally before you went into makeup? So how did makeup sort of come into the picture later on?
Okay, so I didn't know which direction I wanted to go in, whether if it was fashion or beauty, but all I knew was that the thing that I loved about fashion PR specifically was the public relations aspect. It was the creating brands or fixing brands from scratch, well, when they're broken, right? And I always found that I had a clear direction with the same sort of thing in every career path that I had in life. So it was always like I wanted to fix a problem. So
Right.
with fashion, it wasn't necessarily fashion design, it was public relations and figuring out what they needed to elevate their brand. And that's what I studied in school. And that's what I wanted to take on to the next step in my life. However, when I moved back to Hong Kong, I was presented with a number of opportunities, and one of them was being on TV and TV correspondence. So I started to dabble into that. I was working with fashion TV at the time. So I wanted more of a PR role, but I thought, okay, if this is what they're offering me, this is something where I could be recognized for who I am and probably help brands over time, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully, my goal was always to figure out a way to get into PR. And what happened was when I started working with fashion TV, I met a lot of people, and every event I would go to, people would start asking me about my makeup and, on my face, they'd say, oh, who did your makeup? It looks so good. And I would just be honest, like, oh, I did my makeup in 10 minutes because I was always
Yeah.
that girl that did makeup for all my friends, got them glam, got them ready. So I started doing it as a side hustle. And I loved it so much. I pursued it because it was something that made me feel really good when I was able to make other people feel good. And so I actually went into right after fashion TV, I started a PR and marketing agency for someone else. And it was amazing. It was such a crazy opportunity to suddenly graduate from university and then be given the opportunity to have your own vision come to life for someone else. So
Yeah.
that's where I first got my taste of entrepreneurship, where I guess I didn't have to deal with all the hardships of the entrepreneurship. So I got a little taste of
Mm.
what it would feel like to be in control. I was making decisions. I was deciding, oh, we should work with this brand. And because I built this PR company from scratch, it was media. So we hired models for events, we hired talent, we put events together, we hosted. One of our first few clients was Chopard. It was absolutely amazing. And I loved that life and I loved everything that I was doing. But one thing that kept coming back to me was the makeup. And it kept
Right.
knocking at my door. And I had people constantly saying, Natasha, please do my makeup, do my makeup, do my makeup. And this is while I would be prepping for events. Or actually one of the things I had to do because it was a startup was, as you know, dabble my hands in every department. So from
Yeah.
script writing for infomercials and commercials to talent management to makeup artistry. So for example, if there was a product that we were trying to create a commercial for, we needed to show, not just the models' faces doing their makeup because the budget was so low. I did everything. Um,
Yeah.
there was a bruise once that we had to heal. And that was the moment I discovered my passion for makeup was beyond just beauty. When I had to actually create a bruise out of makeup, and it was like, how am I going to do this? I was so stressed. I'm like, I don't know special
Yeah.
effects. I didn't learn this. And
Of
when I
course.
realized I could do that, that art for me was what inspired me to try dabbling in it a bit more. And that's really how it kickstarted. And I think my first client ever was a mom who hired me for her daughter for prom.
Mm.
And she's like, please, can you do my daughter's makeup? And I said, yeah, of course. And I remember that feeling of the girl was she was someone who was not super confident at all. She wouldn't even think that she would have won prom queen. And that night,
Right.
I remember as soon as I did her makeup, she felt so good about herself. She won award for best something. And the confidence in her face and the messages that I received after from her mom crying and from her crying, like,
Mm.
I don't know what you did to me, but you, like, even something like I remember so clearly, I like shaped her eyebrows for her and did her whole very natural. And she was just so happy with the way she looked that I thought, I need to do this for the rest of my life. This is really powerful.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, first of all, getting that dream job at age 21 is absolutely incredible. And it seems like you obviously worked really hard to get to where you were at that time, of course. What other sort of
Yeah.
opportunities did you take part in at your early 20s? Because again, you still had 22, 23, 24. So what else
Yeah.
were you doing?
I was doing a lot. So, one thing about me, I think, even from when I was in uni in London, I was always working. I was an RA. I don't know if you have RAs in London generally, but it's a resident assistant
Maybe.
in the building that I was living in. It was Nido student living. I don't know if it's still there. But anyway, every week I was working even part time. I was always wanting to dabble my hands into like working with photographers and just getting experience because I thought that that was something that was really important. So when I was 21, graduated, left London, Hong Kong, fashion, and then fashion PR, and then beauty. Yes, and then when I started artistry, right? So this is where we're at right now. I think what I didn't know how to become a makeup artist because I had
Mm.
zero experience, and at the time, especially in somewhere like Hong Kong where I grew up, it was really difficult because I was a young Indian girl. I didn't fit into the crowd of who makeup artists were at that period. There were only local artists or really big international makeup artists that would come into Hong Kong that would run major brands. So you'd have the head of MAC for artistry, like those kind. It was like either or. So there was no one really in the space that I was in. And so I kind of just started going and I would knock on people's doors. I would literally ask people, hey, I'll do
Oh,
makeup for
wow.
free for this shoot. Um, oh, I really want to try the special effects makeup for this shoot. I did like kung fu movies and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do special effects. I can do anything. I would have to do the craziest things. So I just got my experience. And I think one thing that pushed me to the point of being able to create my own demand in artistry was the humility aspect, because there was things that I did without feeling like, without having that ego attached to it, where I was like, oh,
Of
I'm
course.
too good for this. I was never in my head too good for anything. The reason I mentioned that is because I think it's a really pivotal part, experience in my life, that now, fast forward like 10 years later, I'm bringing back those traits that I had, because I do think that that's something that's really important. And so I worked with different people. I worked on films, TV set. Still, no matter how much I did, I wouldn't get magazine features. They would be like, no, you're not, your makeup is too bridal. It's too pretty. And it's not hardcore enough. And I remember once I saw an ad for a really cool photo shoot with these amazing photographers called The Gaunts. It was a husband and wife duo. And I remember thinking, what a dream to work with them. They're so out of the box. I've never seen anything like it. And I can send you some pictures of what we ended up doing, but I
Yeah.
begged them to allow me to do makeup for free for a shoot. And I said, please, please, I promise you, I'm not a girly girl only. There's more to me than this. And I can do blood. I can do bullet wounds. I can do whatever you want. And they were like,
Yeah.
are you sure? And this is when I started getting some bridal gigs here and there, but not to what it was. It was still small. And I said, yes, please. This art part of it is just my passion. It's so much fun. It's so wild. And so she's like, all right, how about we do a test run? You can come over and you can try. And if you're good, you can do it. And I was like, okay. And mind you, this was free. I wasn't getting paid for it.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was like, okay. So I go and I get there, and I'm like this, not super conservative. I was quite a rebel, quite a wild child, but still, like,
Mm.
growing up being Indian, we still have attachments to being slightly conservative, like with
Of
the
course.
culture that I grew up in, right? So she brings out this naked model, really gorgeous, 6 foot something actor model. He's completely naked. And I'm like, the little Indian girl in me is like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this guy? And she goes, you have to paint his full body white, and we're going to tie him up because the theme of this shoot is obsession. And we want to create a cut in his heart to represent a heartbreak with blood dripping all over. And I was
Oh
like,
God.
I got to act really cool right now. And I have to act like this is not freaky. So I was like, oh, easy. Okay. So I did it. And actually, the response was so interesting. So after they saw the wound that I had to do with the blood and the cut and everything, they looked at me, super strong British accent, and she was like, oh my God, you are disgusting. Absolutely
Oh man.
disgusting. She was like, this is so good, but you need to tone it down. It's way too gross. So I went so overboard just doing that. And yeah, from that period on, I realized my passion for this, and I loved makeup so much that I started doing it more and more and more and more, and just getting my practice in. And then I found myself really falling in love with making women feel good about themselves. That was why I was brought to makeup, because when I was in high school, I was never, or just not even in high school, honestly, even throughout university, I never looked in the mirror and felt good about myself. I was always not just self conscious, but really critical of the way that I looked. I would always be, just talk negatively. And when I was able to see the transition in people's behaviors based on the application of makeup, I was fully in love with the process, and I wanted to take that to the next level.
You clearly persevered and worked really hard to obviously overcome a lot of the rejections you faced early on in your career. How do you deal with criticism before and also now? Because that's obviously inevitable.
Yes. Criticism is inevitable. And I think if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have answered very differently. I mean, that's only human nature, right? We evolve over
Yeah.
time. And I think I've been evolving through my responses as well. And so 5 years ago, if you asked me how I dealt with criticism, was I would cry, I would doubt myself, I would, and to be honest, actually being super vulnerable, I think that still never goes away, because I just had that moment last week where I was feeling horrible about myself. And I think in every stage in life, when you get through different periods of stress, right? Like one
Of
level
course.
of stress is, oh my God, graduating university. Now, where am I going to get a job? How am I going to, there's different levels. And then
Yeah.
you get into this career path and you're like, this is so great. I'm a makeup artist. But then I'm putting all my blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not earning any money and I've got to create something for myself. And then you start earning money, but then you're like, okay, I need to hire people. So there's different stages of your life where you go through dips and you have criticism come at you at different angles and different points and different POVs. And the first step, I think, of criticism that I got was makeup artist. Why would you be a makeup artist? Number one, that was the first step. First level of criticism I got from my grandma, actually. She was like, you're going to be touching people's faces. You're going to be in the service industry. You're like this
Oh God.
hot shot PR girl that's now, working with Chopard and all these people. You don't get opportunities like that on an everyday basis. Are you going to throw all of that away to be a makeup
Yeah.
artist? Then the second period where I guess I got criticized was as a makeup artist. To be very honest, I got lucky. In the beginning, there was criticism like you were too bridal or you were too this. But as soon as I tapped into my niche and people understood my signature look and people liked it, there was less criticism on my work, which was really good for my mental health.
That's really good.
But there was a lot of criticism in my personal life because I was so much in the public for our community, right? I was posting on social media. My personal life kind of became like an invasive, it was everyone wanted to know everything. I was getting married, I was getting a divorce, I was dating, I was that level of criticism was really, really hard for me. And it drove me to a point where I think I realized, I thought I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore because I have a purpose and I'm just trying to fulfill that purpose. And things keep coming and interfering and stopping me from growing in that process. And that was
Yeah.
really heartbreaking. But I don't think it ever goes away. And I'm glad, like you said, everything happens for a reason. Like with your trip being postponed. For me, I think everything happens in divine timing. Like we had to have this call now, maybe, because if I had this call with you last week, I would have answered completely different. And I would have been like, oh, yeah, before I would have felt really bad about how people think, but now I don't care.
Of
But
course.
last week I
Yeah.
had a realization where going deep is I care. We're all human. We care about what people say about us. It's just the way that you respond to it that's different. And my response time is much quicker now. My bounce back time is much faster than it ever was, where, before I would have probably cried for like 2 weeks about something or a week and then shortens. As you get hit with more troubles in your life, you, I think, respond better. So
Yeah.
my response time has just like, now I'm like, okay, you don't like the way I look? Okay, we'll just snap out of that and we'll be fine with that and we'll figure it out. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. But I don't think you deal with criticism, you just deal with it better, but I don't think it ever goes away. And that's when you start to feel more confident about yourself, is when you realize that, because then you don't have that expectation anymore.
Also, like what you said, social media is another thing. It's like what you see online and in person are two completely different things. I mean, someone can be posting being very happy online, inside can be completely depressed. You don't know when that person posted that photo or what goes on in closed doors because there
Exactly.
is there is so much that goes behind, and that's with everyone. I mean, I always think to myself,
Yeah.
I mean, I did psychology at university, so I'm like, okay, why would they post this? Why would they post a story? What are they trying to get out of it? I mean, same with my podcast, it's trying to encourage people that anyone can do things. It's not just about I'm doing it for myself. I'm posting this content to spread the word that my guests have been able to do great things, and so can you. It's not this self-comparison game. It's like you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's in their own journey. That's how it's supposed to be. And that actually now leads to my next
Exactly.
question because um, you described obviously you were going through a lot in your personal life. While you were starting Natasha Moor Cosmetics, how did you get through all of that? How did you literally build a brand that it is today?
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you for that. So when I was working with all these brides, right, I started off figuring my way out and seeing again, it was just like passion. I was getting calls one after the other, and I was doing it because I loved it so much. But because there was no one who was really doing the style of work I was doing, this is where everything ties back and goes back to branding. And this is why I truly believe branding is so important in anyone, and not just a beauty business, in any industry, like in biotech and in everything. So um, I started doing brides, and I basically created a brand that was Natasha Moore, and that was me. And the reason I say that is because people would hire me because they knew what they were going to get. There was a demand for the work that I was doing, which was different, but they knew exactly what they were going to get when they would hire me. They were going to get clean makeup. They were going to get a bestie, a sister, a friend. It was like a fun vibe that people would have around them, not just makeup. And it was never just about makeup. They would get beautiful portraits because, remember, I mentioned I loved photography. So I would take photos of these brides. I gave extra, I gave more love than anything. And the key ingredient into my business was always love from that point on. And so when I was working with all these brides, I started off not, I mean, creating kind of a package that no one really had. And then I was able to create something that was completely different. And so I got to a point where I was doing brides. I was flying, getting flown everywhere from one country to another. It was like
Mm.
Turkey one day, Mexico the next day, Canada the next day. It's like
Wow.
everywhere, Thailand, Indonesia. It was insane for a 26-year-old or 25-year-old is when it started. And then
Mm.
for a 26-year-old, just to give you a timeline, I was every 3 days in a different country being treated like royalty. And it was absolutely amazing. It was the best feeling in the world. But there was something missing at that period because at home, I was married, but my relationship wasn't working. And it wasn't because I was traveling all over the world. That was the catalyst, was actually the marriage not working out, was the reason why I was taking on so many brides. And I had to do that. And so you get hit with different challenges in your life. But when you look at it as a reason, there's a reason why that had to happen, because
Yeah.
if my marriage wasn't working out, I wouldn't have put so much effort into the business and I wouldn't have been able to grow it. So it's going back and seeing all those things. But at that time, when I was building the brand, I was going through this divorce, which was quite difficult, especially, like I said, because I was so much in the public eye at that point, right? And I say
Yeah.
public and speech bubbles because it was Instagram and it was my community, but globally. So my community of Indians, I'm Sindhi. Are you Sindhi?
I'm half Sindhi, half
Yes.
Punjabi. Yeah,
Oh,
so I get it.
cool. So
Yeah.
so I had a lot of Sindhis, I had a lot of Punjabis, I had a lot of Marwari friends, but within each community, they all knew about who I was and what I was doing in different countries. So
Yeah.
I would show up in a country and there would be so many people who knew who I was. And it was so wonderful, but it was also like, what? How? And it was just because of
Mm.
makeup, just because of the love that I gave in the way that I produced my work. So once I had this clientele, this specific clientele that, I basically got to a point where I was doing $10,000 brides. And that was incredible considering I started from absolutely nothing. And
Yeah.
but there was always something missing because like I said earlier, my relationship was falling apart. And then when I would work with brides, I would think, but what about people who can't afford this? Like, I want to give back and I want to be able to do this. I want to make women feel really good about themselves who don't get the opportunity to feel like that on an everyday basis. So that's when I really started my social experiment, my personal social experiment, which was working with women's shelters, victims of human trafficking. I went actually and visited orphanages. I went to homeless shelters. And all I did was the same thing that I was hired to do, which was makeup. And that was my way of kind of testing to see, is this, because I was starting to think, am I superficial? How can I think that makeup can actually make the world a better place? And sorry, rewind that a little bit. The reason why I thought that was because whenever I would do someone's makeup, their response to themselves would be completely different to what I've ever experienced in my life. It wouldn't just be,
Right.
oh my God, I'm so beautiful, selfie, selfie, selfie. Initially, that's what I thought what it was. But when I went deeper, and as I go deeper in life, I realized the confidence that makeup can bring you impacts the way that you show up in the world. Because when you
Yeah.
have a slight level of confidence in you, whether you're wearing nicer clothes or whether you're wearing high heels or whether as a woman, if you're wearing a full face and you feel confident, or anyone who wants to feel good about themselves and if they want to explore makeup, I saw that power in people's faces no matter what phase of life they were in, whether they were kidnapped from drug cartels and stuffed into wheels
Wow.
of cars, like extreme circumstances, hiding in houses, or whether they were women in their 90s or 70 year olds that were taking care of these women, or whether they were high net worth individuals that would fly me around the world and pay me thousands and thousands of dollars. The reaction was always the same. And that was why I decided, okay, Natasha, you can't be everywhere all at once, but you can create a brand that can be everywhere all at once. So when I realized that in the market, there was not a lot of products, first of all, that suited my clientele skin. So
Okay.
Southeast Asian skin tones, there's no pinks, reds, nudes, no concealers that really worked. So as an artist, I was mixing and matching and formulating, and the brides would say, oh, what lip color did you use on me? It was so beautiful. And I would always respond with, I mixed it. Do you want like the mix? And
Yeah.
there was no formula that worked for anyone. And that's when I said, okay, this is my opportunity to create something. I'm so blessed to be able to create a community of people who actually believe and love what I do. Why not use that to actually speak to them and to create a product line that speaks positivity to existence? Because that's something I was also going on my self-love journey. I had healers. I never felt good about myself. So I thought if I create makeup that one, I know how I feel when I look in the mirror when I have makeup on, even a slight amount, and I have techniques where I can use my makeup products or the products that I'm formulating. If I can use these techniques, and one thing I realized was women don't have time, or people don't have time to spend 2 hours a
Mhm.
day. And there was that specific demographic that was not being shown love in the makeup industry too. People were prioritizing 500 step routines and like all the different, but my clients were like, I don't know, you just do it for me. I don't know. So I
Okay.
thought, how do I teach people how they can do their makeup in under 10 minutes? Because my forte is always doing things really quickly. So I kind of packaged it all in together, created a brand. I say it like it was so easy. It was so
Yeah.
difficult. I
Of
saved up a
course.
ton of money, emptied my bank account, had zero, all those brides, everything that I earned, everything went into a little pot and just left my
Wow.
account as soon as I was ready to launch the brand.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, now my next question, I hope you have an answer, and that is what's been the most proudest moment in your career since launching Natasha Moor Cosmetics?
My proudest moments, actually, every time I get asked this question, I don't know how to respond because I think every moment that I see people responding so powerfully to the products, to the way that I intended, that to me is the proudest moment. It's not just getting into retailers, because to be very honest, in this day and age, the market is so overly saturated, right?
Yeah.
And every retailer, it's so wonderful to be in retailers and to be able to be in a big name like Sephora. Nisa is one of the biggest, most incredible retailers I've worked with that's in the Middle East now. They're opening up 100 doors all over. Nika is also, as you know, I'm sure, growing massively all over India. Macy's is amazing in the US. So there's so many there's so many things to be proud of from that, from like a superficial level. Like, yeah, we're in stores, but I think the most powerful is when I see that woman whip out her lipstick or that man whip out their concealer or whatever it may be, and they say, your products have changed my life. That is reminds me of my intention going into a product and it actually coming to life. So that for me is my most proudest moment. And it happens quite often. And so that makes me proud too, to say that.
How do you take risks? Because you mentioned earlier that you literally just went for it. You did not think. You just literally went for your passion. You launched it. You just emptied your bank accounts without thinking. Did you obviously think about the consequences? Because some people are afraid to take the action because they're worried, oh no, what if I fail? How did you believe in yourself to realize I can do it? I'm meant to do this. It's going to lead to great things. This is my purpose.
Great question. And there's a beautiful quote that's out there, and I don't know who it's by, but It's what if I fail? Oh, darling, but what if I fly? And that always, 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 always goes back in my head. And I will say, when I was younger, that was one thing I noticed through all the self-reflection and self-healing that I've done, self-love that I've done, and healing that I've done separately, not self, because I've had people guide me and help me through that. So I can never say that was self-healing. But through that
Of course.
journey that I've been going on, I have realized the power that comes from being free. And what I had when I was younger was just, I was so fearless. That was something every time I look back and I'm like, what was different about me? When I'm stuck in a period right now, or, when we hit roadblocks and walls, I constantly
Yeah.
think, like, how did I do it when I was younger? And it always goes back to that same moment where I'm like, I was always fearless. It's the same consistent feeling that I had. Or I don't know why when I was younger, I think, and this is where I always mention this, it goes back to my rebellious trait. When I'm told, I'm a Taurian, so I'm very stubborn. If I'm told I can't do something, I want to prove everyone wrong and myself. When I don't believe I can do something, I'm like, I can do it. I want to do it. And it's a trait of mine that can be taken negatively, but I've actually seen it as a superpower because it makes you become fearless. And so now, unfortunately, I'm not as fearless as I was before. And so, because
Mm.
obviously the stakes are bigger, I have a lot more at risk. I have a lot more to lose because I've built so much. So it gets more difficult to be more fearless, but it's just that reminder that you should try your best because what if you fly? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't only think about failing, right? Because and also the other part of that is now, so about 2 years ago, I hit a real, real, real wall. And I really thought, oh God, I don't know what I'm gonna do anymore. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this business, and I got cheated on a ton of money. I got I got hustled so badly, and I just thought, wow, am I just really a bad CEO? Because now imagine I've turned from makeup artist, you heard my whole story now. So you've heard makeup
Yeah.
artist, and then suddenly out of nowhere, CEO of a global brand. It's really not a joke. And now criticism is not just coming from everyone or like people around me, people trying, the good thing is the products. If I heard criticism about it, of course it's only natural. People, love to hate things and not and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But
Yeah.
most of the time it's always been positive. But when I heard criticism, I would break down and cry. I would, especially about the
Wow.
products, because I know it sounds really stupid to say this and compare your child to products, but, and a lot of my friends have children. So they're all going to be like, seriously, Natasha? But I'm just going to say it. Okay. I don't have children yet, but Natasha Moor Cosmetics has been like my baby. I've seen it from growth. I built it like literally, I feel like it came out of me. I created it. So it was like my baby. I felt like I nurtured it and I took care of it. And now to see it in stores and to see the response, it's an emotional attachment that is not super healthy to have, but it's there. And that's the best way to describe my feeling towards the brand. So imagine you can take risks, but it's my baby. So I'm constantly stopping myself. But one
Of
thing
course.
that I have realized more and more is that every single challenge, and this will only come with experience, I hate to say that because now at 35, looking back at all of that, again, like I said earlier with the relationship, every experience that I've had and every challenge that I've had has been there for a reason. There's been a reason why that hasn't worked out because something better was supposed to come along, or maybe not even something better, something different, something more in the direction that I'm supposed to be in. And I look back and I'm like, everything that happened that didn't happen also that I wanted to happen had to happen for that reason.
That's a great piece of advice. And I like the way you described your, Natasha Moore's cosmetics like your baby. It's such a beautiful metaphor. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's something that, it's what wakes you up in the morning. It's like, I'm doing this for my baby. I'm doing this because I'm
Yes.
passionate about it. Now, going back to
Yeah.
your childhood in a way. So, if you had to give one piece of advice to your teenager, your younger self, because you worked obviously very hard to get to this stage that you're in right now through your self love journey, what would you give to your, let's say, 13 or 14-year-old self?
My 13 or 14-year-old self was actually very mentally disturbed. And I say that because I dealt with some severe mental health issues at 13 or 14. I had no friends. My parents were getting divorced in a time where people weren't getting divorced. Indian society, culture, all of that stuff. And then on top of that,
Yeah,
I had no friends in school and I was eating lunch in the bathroom or and I was being bullied in school. And at that period, 13 or 14, I had kids at the time screaming out of the school bus saying, "You're so ugly, you should die." And
that's crazy.
thinking back, I'm like, wow, that's also it had to happen because that was the fuel that made me say, I want women to never feel like this ever. And that was the thing that really excited me in life. And so again, that had to happen. If I wasn't bullied, I wouldn't have started a makeup brand. I'm sure of that because I wouldn't have this deep desire in even makeup artistry, right? A lot of my friends would be like, "Oh, how are you touching people's faces and like going up and
Mm.
like because you're really intimate with someone, there's saliva, there's like it's not the most glamorous thing, right?
Yeah,
um and if someone has a breakout or anything, you have to be sensitive as a makeup artist because when I realized this was true in my true artist period was when I was emotionally attached to brides. So, for example, they would be like, Natasha, you don't know what it feels like. My skin is so bad. I have such bad acne. Your skin is amazing. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I know. I was bullied. And then I would show them pictures. Like my skin was so bad. I understand. So I know how to make you, I would be the reason why I had to break out was so that I could make people feel good about themselves because I knew how I could make myself feel after that. If that makes, does that make sense? Everything, if you look at everything that has happened to you in your lifetime, and that way you can also, it helps you stop questioning. It helps you step into this mode and state in your life where you're more positive about things and not toxic positivity, but more looking forward to things that you're opening yourself up to bigger opportunities when you're thinking more because you're operating from a space of positivity, which means your energy, as woo woo as this sounds, but your energy shows that when you're more confident in your future, in yourself, in who you are as a person, then your energy shows that and you're not masking anything at that point. And so you're welcoming more opportunities.
yeah. No, I was just gonna say that I totally agree with the fact that everything just happened for a reason. It's the reason that you were able to build this
Yes.
product and, focus on such
Yeah.
empowering themes like, woman empowerment
Yeah.
and just being fearless.
So my advice to 14, 13, 14-year olds, sorry, to answer that question would be really stop doubting yourself so much because we all do. And the one thing to note is that people might bully you, people might say things about you, but if you know that you have good intentions and you don't hate on yourself so much and you have that confidence, people won't bully you. I also attracted that because I hated myself. So it was like, it was what I did to myself, I think. And I'm not saying that, oh, I'm the worst person ever. It was all me. But you should look at your own actions because you are also everything around you is also a mirror. So this is actually a very different piece of advice that I've ever given anyone because normally I'm like, believe in yourself, which I still say, believe in yourself, but also look at yourself without that level of ego and drop that ego and just look at yourself and how you're treating other people and what you're reflecting out. Because I was so insecure, I was reflecting a lot of negativity. And so that would bounce back to me. And of course, if people are bullying me, it's going to be bad, right? So I'm going to hate
Yeah.
myself more. I almost want to find a way to help 13 and 14-year-olds through that period have a voice and have a space that they can talk to. And I think actually Gen Zers now, that's one thing that's incredible about them. One
Yeah.
thing that I love, and I have a lot of interns that I've seen this where they're very open to being vulnerable and they're talking more and they're communicating more, which is surprising because of social media. But I've noticed that, like, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have, I'll
Mm.
see some of these girl friendships and I'm like, this is so cute. I didn't have that. I had a
Right.
lot of backstabbing. And so I don't know. That's what I said to them. And they were like, you don't know. They're only like that in front of you. Otherwise, there's a lot of backstabbing. So I think
Yeah.
it's just teenage years. Yeah, just see how
It's
you're
rough.
treating other people too. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, 12, 13, 14. Oh, those years are awful. And I mean, to be honest, that's also why my podcast, I want to promote those messages. Like in Gen Z, we should be authentic and open to talking about what we want without having people to judge
Yeah.
what we want to say. And that's going to be leading on to like my second last question. That is,
Mhm.
during your career, there has to be like a piece of advice you continue to take to this day. You must have been given a lot of advices, but what's been one particular advice that you still carry on to this day?
Yeah, you're right. I have been given a lot of advice. The best advice is, I think, from my father. Always, always. It's if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It won't feel like work. And, you know, he still lives by that. You see the passion in him. He's like a leadership management consultant. He's written a book called The P Factor. He's such an amazing human being. And his advice to me, both my parents actually, his advice to me is just love what you do. And initially, when he said that, I was like, yeah, easy for you to say. Like, I need to make money here. How am I going to love what I? But actually, now I look at it and I'm like, he's right. If you don't love it, if it doesn't drive you, if it doesn't make you wake up in the morning with excitement and pure joy in your heart, despite the challenges, despite the stress, there has to be that element of love. And that is always a missing ingredient. And that's what I've noticed also when I mentor people. And I've started to mentor a lot of kids now. And if they don't love it, I'm like, don't pursue it. Why? Unless you really want to do it, because you're going to fall out of love and it's going to get really, really difficult, as any
Yeah, of
career does. And you'll hit
course.
lots of roadblocks. But one thing that's going to keep it together and keep you strong is your passion for why you're doing it. So definitely love it and truly love it.
It's like what makes you wake up in the morning? How do you get out of bed? What are you thinking of doing? I'm going to do this because I know it makes me
Yeah.
happy.
And through that love is where you find what your purpose is in life. And I think it's an ever changing, well, ever evolving mindset to have is like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? But I feel like you'll know when you know. It's like the
Yeah,
perfect partner. I think you'll know when you know.
awesome. And now coming to the last question, and that is, what are you up
Yeah.
to nowadays? Because you are very busy, Natasha. I can tell just traveling, working on your brand, mentoring, posting on social media.
Yeah.
So what are you up to nowadays?
Okay. So this is a great question. And by the way, you're great at this because your questions have all just flown beautifully from like my timeline. And I think normally it's very scatterbrained because I am entrepreneur ADHD 100 out of 100. So um, I would be scatterbrained answering all these questions and going back in time, but you did a great job. So, all
Thank you.
right. So where am I at now in life? Um,
Today.
It's a lot. It's a loaded question. Okay, so I started the cosmetic brand. We launched into retailers. It was beautiful. It's been amazing. I've built a community of women around the world that really believe in the sole purpose of the brand. All the shade names, by the way, are affirmations, and everything has a mirror on it. So you press the button, it comes out. And it's so beautiful because when I see people look at it, it makes me so proud when they look at something and they're like, this is so cool. And this works so well. So all the shade names are like ambition, game changer, hustler, drive, CEO, willpower. And it's to remind you of your power. Our mascara is called More Power to remind you of your power, to lift your lashes, to make you feel good. I don't have anything on right now, but I only have lipstick and blush. But but so from building that brand, I saw my love and passion again for building brands. So my friends would constantly come up to me and ask me, hey, who did your logo? Who did your website? Who did this? Who did this? Who did this? Who did your packaging? Who did this? And I would be like, it all came from my brain. Everything from product development to the story to the message, the way that everything is. It's like it started from my brain and then my team that are able to make my vision come to life. So I would start helping my friends out as gifts. I'd be like, oh, I would give them logos. Like I'd
Oh,
give them
nice.
brand, like I would give them business cards with their things just designed. And I've always been like this. So really cute story is again, backtrack. When I was working as a makeup artist and I think I was living in Hong Kong, but I was flying everywhere. So there was
Okay.
this sushi restaurant that my best friend took me to. It was like a little hole in the wall sushi. And I loved sushi. And in Hong Kong, there was no cool like American rolls. You know how you have the like jalapeno and fun cool things in the sushi rolls. It was just basic
Yeah.
nigiri, like proper
I love
traditional sushi,
I
which
love
was
sushi.
love. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. So I went into this hole in the wall restaurant and the sushi was so good. I met the chef. He was this really sweet older guy from San Francisco. And he was this amazing chef. And I was like, you know what? We should bring in more customers for you. You're so talented. And I've always been like this. So this is something that has never changed. I think it was 22 at that time. I'm like,
Okay.
you're so good. Your sushi's amazing. 22 or 23. Yeah. So I had no idea about branding at that period. And that's why I said I need to tell you a funny story because I just remembered it. And
Yeah.
I said, hey, can you make a roll with cream cheese and jalapeno and spicy salmon and spicy tuna? Because I want both. And I promise you there's a reason to the story, not to make you hungry. And he was like, an avocado. And he was like, avocado
Okay.
and sushi? Because no one was doing that 13 years ago in Hong Kong. He's like, ew, avocado and your sushi. I'm like, yes, I promise you it's going to bring in a lot of clients. So he sampled a couple of sushi rolls for me. I kept coming back and I was like, this is the one. This is amazing. Then he put spicy mayo and then he crunched it on top with like Pringles or something. It was some crunchy
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It was the best thing. And I was like, you're going to name this the spicy Natasha roll. And he goes, yeah, I want to name it after you. So it became such a trend. And mind you, this, like I said, it was a long time
Wow.
ago. So no one really knew. I didn't have a makeup brand, but people would go in there and I posted it on, I don't even know, was it Instagram? Maybe it was, yes, I'm sure I can go back in Instagram. I had a website where I had a blog, beauty blog. So I'd post a bunch of stuff. And I was like, guys, go get the spicy Natasha roll. And by the way, mind you, this is before influencers were even around. Like the word
Oh,
influencer was not even existing. So it was a completely different world. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm having sushi with Uncle Sushi, and I nicknamed him Uncle Sushi. One of the times, so then he got so popular. It blew up. There was line because it was a small restaurant. There was lines outside his place, not because of me only, but obviously word of mouth. It was the one sushi roll. People started to come. You know, he was so grateful and he was like, I love you. Thank you for doing this for me. And so one Christmas, because I was so attached to this cute old man who I started to think of as like my grandpa, you know, he had total grandpa vibes. I was like, I
yeah.
want to help this guy. So I made him little business cards and I said, your brand should be Uncle Sushi. It needs to be, everyone knows you as Uncle Sushi now. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
Uncle Sushi, I made these business cards and everyone in Hong Kong, all the Indians knew him as Uncle Sushi. And from that moment on, and people didn't even know that it came from me initially. And it didn't even come from me because my best friend introduced me to Uncle Sushi. And that's how it spread to the rest of the world, which is so wild. And that's when I realized the power of influence. That was my
Yeah.
first realization where I was like, oh, okay, I have some sort of power. I'm going to use this power wisely and I'm going to help my friends who have businesses. So that's when I started influencing, which was just posting about different businesses. I had a healer that I would post about, her business blew up. I had a health coach that I would work with, posted my before and after, her business blew up. And so I realized if I'm able to help other people from this point of view, like this is something that's another form of love that I have that also ties in with making people feel beautiful. It stems from the same place. And it might be, you know, like on a deeper healing level, it might be because I have something within me that I'm trying to satisfy and heal because I'm an only child. Again, I had no friends. Maybe it's because I wanted that and that's how it started. But it actually, the deeper I looked into myself, I'm like, no, I genuinely love seeing people's success. And that now I see it as that is my entrepreneur trait. So fast forward 35 years old now, I actually have a branding agency where I help brands because I built that. And I'm like, if I can help other people also through hiring a ton of people in the past and not liking the style, not liking the work, losing a lot of money, a lot of money money that stupid money that I shouldn't have spent at all. I thought, okay, I need to create my own agency so that I don't have to see my friends go through that struggle, wasting their money on stupid things that don't end up looking good. And then,
Yeah.
or I would start like, my friends would say, oh, how do I fix this logo? And it really started with one of my clients. And this is what formalized the branding agency, because I was doing it one off here and there. But what truly formalized it was a friend of mine. He called me up and he's like, I'm launching this brand. It's going to look like this. He showed me and I was like, oh, bro, you got to change your logo. And then I sent him a voice note of exactly what he needs to do. I had this vision dump, and I get these downloads quite regularly for brands. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's my like secret power or whatever. So I'm like, you got to do this. And he goes, I just played this to one of my investors and he was like, can you hire this chick? So I was like, well, okay. I mean, I was starting this branding agency, but he really kickstarted that. My agency, the name was inspired by this experience with my one friend. And I already had it in my mind, but this finalized it. It's called My Friend's Brand. And it's because everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, it's my friend's brand. Oh, it's my friend's brand. Oh, it's my friend's
Catchy.
brand. So
Yeah.
people would be like, oh, what? And so my friends would make fun of me. They're like, well, let me guess, it's your friend's brand. Everything was your friend's
Yeah.
brand. So that's our agency name. And this client, he launched a beautiful Manuka honey line. I'm proud to now also be part investor in it, part I'm a partner in the company because it's such a beautiful brand. It's called We Just Be, and it's Manuka honey that has such, Manuka honey's got such beautiful antibacterial properties. But one thing that we're doing very differently is actually creating products that cater to animals, and the healing properties in Manuka honey for pets is absolutely unbelievable. And I'm a huge pet lover, so it makes me so happy to be part of bigger things. Um, on top of that, there's more to this. Sorry, branding agency.
Sure.
My husband is in biotech, and he's developing cancer therapeutics, which is again a dream come true. Like being someone who's worked with women's shelters and always had a side of philanthropy that I want to work with. Um, this for me, it's literally cancer medication, and we're curing cancer. So I started off by doing their rebrand, which is incredible and something that I love doing. And I didn't think I would ever have to. First of all, I failed science, and now I'm helping in biotech, which is quite wild. I'm now helping on that front. So my friend's brand is managing a lot of different companies right now, and we're doing rebrands for them, but also working to elevate new brands. So everything from product development to design, I'm helping people who want to start makeup brands through my friend's brand agency. And then my biggest, most exciting passion project besides my brand right now is Special Beauty. It's beauty pageants for special needs children. And
Oh,
I
wow.
met, it's so beautiful because I've worked with special needs kids in the past. Again, 10 years ago when I started my charity initiative called Do More. And now I didn't know how I could bridge beauty with special needs and autism because, there's a lot of negative connotations that are in there. And for beauty, like how could you bring that to children of special needs? And when I met the founder of Special Beauty, it was like the perfect alignment. Jason, I'm so lucky to be partners with him. And we're launching our first event in Hong Kong, which is going to be incredible with the British consulate. And I'm very
That's amazing.
excited.
Very
Yeah.
exciting stuff. Wow, you're doing a lot right now. Maybe a bonus question. How do you have time to sleep?
I would have said in the past, I don't really sleep, but and that's still true. Like me and my husband, like I said last week, we had a really crazy couple of weeks. We basically didn't sleep, and it's something we should work on. But it's also that excitement for everything that we're doing. We're waking up
Yeah,
with that excitement, and I should sleep more. That's something I should tell you. I should definitely sleep more, but I don't. I'm trying to practice peace. That's my new thing. I'm really, really, really trying to focus on family time, focus on peacefulness, and that's my version of sleep.
awesome. Thanks so much, Natasha, for being here and for
Thank
sharing your
you.
insights and stories. Like a fairy tale almost from the beginning to the end.
Thank you.
Um, for those who would
Thank
like to get in
you.
touch with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Actually, I was going to say we are trying to build a platform right now where I can help just be a voice for a lot of youth that need someone to listen to and someone to guide them. Um, so I'm going to be hosting webinars just so that I can talk through my journey, kind of like this, but
Yeah.
more for people to have a little Q&A. So follow me on Instagram because we'll be posting that quite a lot, and send me DMs. That would be the best way to get in touch with me. I try my best to respond to people. And I also give people, they'll send me selfies. They'll be like, what's my concealer shade? I still respond to all of that, which is great. So definitely find me on
Awesome.
Instagram. It's at Natasha.Moor.
We'll add that in this
No E.
podcast. We'll add it below. No
Yeah.
E.
I
Okay,
had to say
cool.
no E because that's how my husband found me. We met on Halloween in Soho House, and all he got
Oh,
was not my number, he got my name. So he had to like Google me. So Natasha Moore, no E.
right, we'll make sure we have that in. Thank you for joining me
Yes.
here today, Natasha.
Thank
And for those
you.
watching, make sure to like and subscribe. A new guest will be on soon. Thank you, Natasha, for joining me here today, and speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.